What's up, YouTube? It's your boy JB, and I'm here today with the review for How to Get Away with Murder. This is season 6, episode number 2, and it's titled Vivian's Back or something like that. It'll be correct down here in the bottom. I think it's Vivian's Back. Let me double check that before I move on, you guys. Let me double check. It is titled Vivian's here. Not Vivian's Back. Vivian's here. So without further ado, you guys, let's go ahead and just jump right into that video. Stuttering. Alright, so the episode, it opens up. So we see Annalise Keating. She's in her class. This is their final semester before they all become lawyers. And some of these people should not be lawyers. Preferably some of the Keating 5. Mainly, all of them. I would not want any of them to be my lawyer. I could say Connor, because Connor has kind of grown up. But I don't know if I would want Makayla, who's very selfish. Asher, who's nothing but a jokester. And Laurel, I would never want Laurel as my lawyer. So, she's letting them know that they had this new client. And they're having to pitch his case to the immigration. He's wanting to seek asylum. And they have 2 hours before they pitch it to Kaplan and Gold. So then Asher asked the question of like, well, I heard a little rumor that Laurel dropped out of this semester, so who's gonna take her chair? And then there's another girl like, yeah, and Makayla Pratt's not here, so who's gonna take her seat? So, we do then see the kids, they're pitching their ideas to Annalise, who is actually not even paying attention to anything that they're saying at all. And she gives first share to Connor, and she gives second share to Asher, and then New West, he is going to be there to assist. So then we see her, she's talking to New West, and she's telling New West that his mother is there, and he's not aware that his mom is there. And then, Annalise tells him, like, you need to go and talk to her because, yeah, I'm not going to be just sitting here dealing with you, your mama, and y'all's drama. So, we see Tegan. She comes in, and, Tegan wants to chat with Annalise. With her, she's just telling her how everybody at the farm is just looking at her like, with the side eye. And all she did was take Emmett's office, who's a dead man, by the way. So then we see Annalise. She gets a text from Nate. And it's telling her that she needs to meet up with him. So, she tells him, like, what, Tegan, I got to get out of here. Like, I'm not going to be a good, productive employee today because Sam's ex is in town. And I'm just not feeling this shit whatsoever. So then we do see Connor and Asher. So they go down to see their client. And when they go, into the interrogation room to see their client, they're like, where is the client at? And then we see the client. He's on the floor. And it's an 8-year-old little boy by the name of Hector, which they had no idea. And Hector speaks no English. So then, we see Asher. Asher was calling Annalise. But Annalise was with Nate and Bonnie, which we'll get to that in just a little bit. So, so since they couldn't get a hold of Annalise, Asher calls Tegan to come down there, since we all know Tegan is, bilingual, to speak to him. And she was like, you think I don't have anything better to do with my day? I run a company, and you want me to come down here and talk to your client? He says it's a cute little 8-year-old boy. So Tegan does go in there to talk to him. And so, he's drawing, because when Connor and Asher went in there the first time, he had a notepad, and he was drawing little stick figures on there, and it was 3 of them. It was 3, I guess it was like a mom in the middle. I don't know if it was a child and a dad. I don't know. So then when Tegan went back in there, he was still drawing another stick figure. And this time it was a distinct looking stick figure. And the stick figure was holding a gun. And, they were like, is that a gang from, where you're from? And then on it, he writes ICE. And I'm like, oh, it's one of those gangs. So he's afraid of ICE agents. So then we see, Asher and Connor. They go to grill Annalise about, the client and them not knowing that he was a kid. And she's like, well, most times when it comes to cases like these, they don't know anything about the client until they meet them at the courthouse for the trial. So consider yourselves lucky that I'll let you meet him first. So then, she tells, like, so what the hell is going on with you? And she does eventually tell them, Vivian's here. So then back in the class, we do see the kids once again, and they are giving their pitch to Annalise. And this time, Annalise is completely shooting them down left and right. And then she tells New West, like, you need to go home with your mom And then she tells him like he needs to forgive his mom, and he was like, but she lied to me. And she was like, okay, still, you need to forgive her and take your ass home with her. So then we see Asher once New West leaves. Asher walks up to Annalise and tells Annalise that New West killed Vivian's boyfriend, and that that's something that they could use against him because that's what Makayla told them. And she was like, that is not something that we're going to use, Asher. Like, we can't keep doing stuff like this. Like, it's got to stop. And I agree with her. It's time to stop blackmailing people because that is what's gotten you guys in trouble so many times in the past now. That is why the FBI is currently investigating you guys. Like, well, they were. Or still could be. Who knows? But, yeah, that's why, like, everything actually goes back to Sam season 1. Wow. Alright, so next we see Connor. He's in the interrogation room with Hector. So then Oliver comes in. Oliver has some food. And then Oliver also smuggled in a phone. So when Oliver, Connor asked him, like, how did you get the phone in? He told him. And then, Hector sees the phone. Hector snatches the phone away from Oliver. And then he hides up under the table again. And he FaceTimes with his mother. So then we see Connor. He calls Annalise and he tells her, like, she doesn't speak good English, but she speaks more English than what Hector does. And Connor wants to bring his mother. And she's like, where is she? He's like, she's in Maryland. He said she came to the U.S. and then she got up enough money and she sent for him because he was staying with different people. And Annalise is like, that's not a good idea because ICE agents would use that. They would use the kids to get the parents so that way they could deport both of them at the same time. So she tells him, you got to come up with something different. And then we see Annalise. Annalise is buying a gram of cocaine. I'm like, wait a minute, Annalise. I'm like, please, Annalise, do not be doing this shit again. And then, in the courtroom, we see Connor. So Connor, he calls a witness to the stand, and it's a fake ICE agent because they have ice on the back of their jacket. And Hector sees that, and Hector completely freaks out. And then, Connor just talking about how he lives in inhumane conditions and that he should be granted asylum. You can see how passionate Connor was about this. And the judge, she does agree to put him in foster care. So then once they get outside of the courtroom, they talk to Hector, and Hector's asking Tegan about his mom. And, Connor tells her, tell him we'll get his mom asylum. She's like, no, I'm not telling him that. He's like, tell her. So she does tell him, and then he says, can you promise that? And Connor says yes, he can promise that. I'm like, oh, ballsy, very ballsy, Connor. All right, so next I'm gonna talk about Makayla. So when the girl earlier in the episode said that Makayla was not in class, it flashed back to last week's episode where it ended when Asher told Makayla that Annalise knew her dad. Annalise tells her she didn't know her dad at all. He was a perfect stranger to her. She tells Makayla that, she met him when she was in her undergrad and she was interning, and that is really how she met the guy. She knew nothing about him whatsoever. I mean, he's a perfect stranger to Annalise, just like he is to Makayla. And Makayla says that she doesn't believe her, and I'm just like, okay. And then also Annalise tells us, she didn't know she didn't know anything about her or her dad until she was picked for the Keating Five. So then we see Makayla and Oliver. So they're looking over her dad's records, and they see that there's nothing been in the system about him since 2005 in New Orleans, after Katrina. So then she calls Annalise, and Annalise is just on her like, girl, you need to bring your ass back to class. So, Annalise was on the phone with her, and then once Annalise got off the phone with her, Vivian showed up, and Vivian is upset with Annalise because, she stole her husband, and now she feels like she's stealing her son. And she's like, I didn't know nothing about him, and I didn't even know that Sam knew about him. And she's like, oh, yeah, Sam knew about him, and that, when I told Sam was going to come break it off with you, but, so basically, Sam chose me over you. I'm like, okay, but he still ended up with Annalise, so what are you trying to prove here, sis? What are you trying to prove? Like, I was so confused. Like, what was she trying to prove? So then we see Makayla, don't want to do this. No, I'm not gonna go there. So we see Makayla and Oliver. So Oliver had let her know he went into the shower in the bathroom. She was in the shower, and he told her he found out some information about her dad, and he had his iPad or whatever, and he showed it to her. And on the screen it showed her dad. He got into some kind of an award because he had reformed his life, and he had created something in prison. I forgot what it was. Didn't take it down. So then we see, New West called Makayla to see, check on her. She says, "Oh, I'm in Virginia. I came here to see my dad," or so she thinks that's her dad. So then, she's talking about so distracting me. She asked him, like, "So how did things go with your mom?" He says, "Well, Annalise wants me to leave town. Do you think I should leave?" She's like, "That's not even a question that I could really answer for you." And then the guard or whoever calls for her. She says, "You know what? I'll call you later." So then she goes up there and they tell her, "Well, your dad was here, but he's not here anymore. He's been gone for about, he was transferred to upstate New York about 2 years ago." So then we see Makayla. She goes up there to upstate New York, and the guard is getting ready to leave because it's his end of the shift. It's the end of his shift, and she's just telling him how she wants to meet her dad. He's like, "Okay, you owe me a 6-pack," and she's, the guard agrees to let her see her dad, and we'll get into that a little bit later about her dad. All right, so we see Frank. He's going to try to find out about this key at the about the safe deposit box. So he finds out that the safe deposit box does belong to Laurel, but there's someone else on there, a family member. He doesn't know exactly who this family member is, and he pretends to be Laurel's fiance to get information. But without him being able to prove that he's Laurel's fiance, the young lady that's in front of him at the desk, she can't really give him a lot of information. So then, we see Nate, Bonnie, and Annalise. So they're talking about Vivian, and they wonder, like, was she wearing a wire? Who is she working with? Is she working with the governor? Is she working with this person? Is she working with that person? And, so then Annalise asks, like, do anybody know what Frank is doing? Nobody knows what Frank is doing. So then, but Bonnie's like, I'll find out. So then Nate says before that, Bonnie and Annalise Glee, he says, "You guys might want to stay around now so I can show you this." So he shows him his phone, and he was like, "So this is a picture of Tegan 10 years ago at Kaplan and Go's med school office. The same year that Laurel was kidnapped, and then, they got her released." And they're like, "So what are you telling me this for?" Like, "Damn, you want me to go back to the bottle?" Annalise says. So then we see Bonnie, she is going over Vivian's file, and she calls Frank, and she asks him, like, "So where are you?" And he says, "I'm in Pittsburgh. Dad had a gambling debt or something, and he had to come out here and help him out with that." So she says, "You know what? I need help with Vivian's file." She says, "Were you ever able to find out anything about her arrest records?" And her arrest records, her police report says no, wasn't able to find anything out. But he says, "You know what? I'll look into it and I'll get back to you." And then we also see that Frank is visiting Jorge Castillo, Laurel's dad. So Frank is questioning Jorge about Laurel, and Jorge tells him, like, "I'm gonna tell you, like I told the FBI, I don't know anything about Laurel." So then he questions him about the safe deposit box. He asks him, "Is he the family member that's on that with her?" He says, "No." He says, "What about Xavier?" He says, again, "I don't know." So Jorge then talks about he knows what Frank is feeling because he knows that feeling all too well about Laurel not liking him, hating him. Laurel is a whole big contradiction in herself. And he says that he was trying to protect baby Christopher from Laurel because she's hurt every man in her life. Him, Frank, Wes, Dominic, the list goes on, which that is true. Every man that's in her life is either dead or in jail or just nuts. What is it about? What the hell is it about Laurel? God, what is it about Laurel? I just don't understand. So then we see Nate. He calls Annalise and he says that Tegan is with Vivian, and we do see that they're together. And I'll get to that in just a minute about Vivian and Tegan. Actually, where did I put that note at? Okay, I got out of order. No, I really didn't get out of order. So actually, since we're talking about Vivian and Tegan, let's go ahead and talk about it. So, Vivian is telling Tegan that she is concerned about Annalise being involved in some illegal activity, And if it comes down, if her son gets, in trouble because of that illegal activity, she will sue Kaplan and Gold. And I'm like, oh, really? We got some balls, huh? So, then we see Tegan talking to Annalise, and Tegan thinks that, Telesco might have gotten to, Vivian. And then Annalise is like, are you playing me? And Tegan is like, I know you're not accusing me of playing you when you were supposedly in California at a spa and I covered for you. And she said the reason why I didn't tell you about me meeting with her is because the last time I told you some bad news, you ended up in rehab. And Annalise was like, okay, you're right, that is true. She says, you know what, I do believe you. I absolutely believe you. And I'm like, okay, Annalise, good for you. I don't know what to think with Tegan. I mean, I do believe Tegan, but it's interesting. So then we see Bonnie. So she still has Vivian's records, and in order to get it unsealed, she manufactures some evidence about Vivian to with some cocaine to get it unsealed. So then we see her go talk to Annalise. She tells her that Vivian was arrested a year ago for drug trafficking. And then Annalise tells her, Bonnie, you have got to stop with that. So then Bonnie asks Annalise, like, why did you come back and don't tell me? It's because you love me. She says, well, I do love you. And Bonnie tells her, I want you to love yourself first. Oh, God, this beard gotta go. Piece of hair got in my mouth. So Annalise is like, they're coming for us. It could be now, it could be tomorrow, but eventually they're coming for us. You're right, Annalise, they're out coming for you guys. All right, so then we see Frank show up to Annalise. And Annalise, she goes into her drawer. She pulls out the cocaine that she bought. I'm like, oh, thank God she didn't use it. Because when Frank was calling for her and she didn't want showing up, I'm like, oh, shit. Annalise is going to be strung out like it ain't shit. But thank God she wasn't. But what she wanted Frank to do with that cocaine is she wanted him to plant it on Vivian. And Frank is like, no. So he takes the cocaine and he, pours it down the sink. And, so then he tells her about the safe deposit box and that there's another person, a family member, that's attached to that Laura put on there. And she's like, oh, crap, it's Wes. Because then it flashed back to Wes talking about, when he was going to go to the FBI, what, season 3, I think it was? I can't remember which season it was. I think it was like 2 or 3 seasons ago. Maybe it was season 4. I think. Shit, I forgot. I really forgot what season it was. What season was that Wes died? Oh, this is season 5. So it was season 3. I said season 6 in this episode review, but this is season... Damn. Okay. So yeah, it was season 3 or 2. No, it was season 3 when Wes died, I believe. Can't remember. We'll get it correct. So yeah, so it's the safe deposit box. And then we saw Nate. So Nate told Annalise that Vivian was meeting with the FBI. And then Annalise tells her, Annalise goes to her place and tells her, so basically, your son killed your ex-boyfriend. And Vivian says, huh, Hannah was right. You are desperate. She says, oh, you still in contact with Hannah? Well, give the bitch my regards. I died laughing. So Vivian thinks that Annalise is lying. And Annalise is looking at her like, girl, I'm not lying. So, Annalise basically tells Vivian, like, girl, you need to go home and get over what happened 25 years ago. And then they both talk about how Sam treated them when they were messing with Sam. I was half here, half not here when they were talking about that. And then in Bonnie's office, there are 2 people that come in her office, and they come to question her about why she did what she did with the fabrication of the evidence for Vivian. So Bonnie says that she did that because she knew that Miller was in contact with her son, and she felt like by putting pressure on that could unravel or unearth some new things that could clear him and make him not be a bad guy, I guess. We all know Bonnie was fucking lying, basically. We all know Bonnie was lying, but they told Bonnie, you're fired. I'm like, oh, poor Bon Bon. Poor Bon Bon. But I knew it was coming because Bonnie has done a lot of illegal shit in that office since she's been there. Covering up a murder of Ron. Ooh. Bonnie has done a lot of shit in the DA's office that is not good. All right, you guys. I thought I was finished, but we got to talk about New West. So New West calls, Vivian, and he gets her voicemail. So Makayla comes in, and Makayla is all about who? Makayla, and she wants to have sex with him. And because she blames him for telling her to go look for her father. And then New West tells her his mom is there and won't talk to him, but she did talk to Annalise. And then Vivian does come into the door, and she was like, Makayla was just, hi, I'm Makayla Pratt, and doing her Makayla Pratt thing. And she told her, girl, do you have somewhere to go? Leave. So then we see Makayla, she was talking to the others about Vivian, and they are questioning why she's there. And then Makayla tells them, like, well, New West killed her boyfriend. I'm like, dun, dun, dun. So then we see Vivian. Vivian is upset. And she, she said she didn't tell him nothing because she would assume he was going to lie to her. He's like, she's my professor. I'm not sleeping with her. She's like, well, I'm glad about that. But, knowing her and her track record, I don't want to put anything past her. I'm like, okay, whatever, Vivian. And she said the thought has crossed her mind. And then Vivian feels like Annalise has brainwashed him. He's like, you lied to me. She said, I told you your dad was not in your life. He didn't come look for you. She said, all that was, he left us. He did. He didn't come look for you. He didn't. He says he did come and look for me. He said, I saw Sam when I was 11 years old. Grandma saw him too. He says, I guess Grandma didn't tell you that. She says, no, she didn't tell me. And she says, I promise you, she didn't tell me. Do I believe her? Kind of, sort of. I hope she won't lie to her child, but stranger things happen. Stranger things happen. And then lastly, in the episode, you guys, so the guard, that went, when Makayla went to go see her dad, he tells her that they found her dad. And then we see her, she goes to Annalise, and she is upset with Annalise. She's talking about, I hate you, because her dad died a year ago of a stroke. So then we see Frank. Frank goes back to the safe deposit box, pretending to be West, and he does get into the safe deposit box. And then he asks, who was the last person to hear? It was Laura. And how long ago was it that she was here? 3 days ago. And then we see, then the episode closes. We see Makayla. She's in an interrogation room. And there are two people that come in there and they tell her, she's like, I can have you guys for not giving me my Miranda rights. And they're like, well, shit, we got you. Like, we got you because the murder weapon, it has your fingerprints all over it. So it appears that, well, it's not that Makayla killed her. That might have been the last time someone touched that, that fireplace poker. It might have been the last time that, wait, no. Unless somebody grabbed the fireplace poker with gloves on. Possibility. But you guys, that was the episode. I know this was all over the place, but be sure to like the video, leave your comments, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys later.